Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wilder Ride Listeners Lounge, a place for us to be able to get to know somebody rather than a movie a minute at a time. We get to know the person one moment of their life at a time. We've got a great guest coming your way in just a few minutes. Autumn Fischer, who is part of the von Haessler doctrine, who is a fantastic voice talent, very, very funny, and we are really going to be happy to have her on the show here in just a few minutes. But first, I'm your host, Alan Sanders.
And I am your co-host, Walt Murray.
And Walt, I can tell from the sound of your voice, you've got everything working as it should.
For now.
For now. We'll go with that.
I don't promise anything as we move forward.
So we're finally back in the swing of things. It took us a few weeks, as we mentioned, to try to get our first guest locked down. But now we're kind of clicking along. Finally, people are like, oh, okay, as long as I don't have to be first, I'm happy to be, part of the show.
Right. Well, and a little behind the scenes, we reach out to all kinds of different people to come on. We're trying to get kind of a diversity of people. And it's definitely true that when you have a relationship with someone, it's much easier to to convince them to come on the show. I won't say on the air who this was, but I sent an email to an agent of an actress today and said, hey, here's who we are, whatever. And his response was no.
Just one word response. Not
just
even
a one word response.
Thank you so much for showing interest.
Thanks.
Just no.
Right.
Well, that's actually better. That's better than the hell no, which I think is usually for emphasis.
Well, and remember the one I got last season of how much does this pay?
Yeah, I love when a well-known, wealthy celebrity is worried about compensation for his time. Okay, well. Thank you.
I was like, well, I don't get paid, so
move along. This is not the podcast you are looking for.
Yeah, all of a sudden you're not as interesting as you were before.
Yeah. I'm only in it for $1.
Right.
I mean, you don't want to share your life story? Oh, hell no.
Yeah. Well, and he should have, because he died.
Oh,
so
yeah. Well, it happens.
Yeah, it does.
Wow,
it does happen.
You really took the air out of the opening act here. I mean, it's
not really.
Wow, I'm saying, and he died. Well, I'll just insert a bump right there. How about that? There we go.
He wasn't that good an actor. I knew that you would get your board out at some point.
Well, you got to do something to figure out what I'm going to do with that comment. So, anyway.
Well, I see that you've moved into the 21st century. Have a camera for your computer.
Finally, at the beginning of our 4th season, I upgraded my computer not that long ago, but I finally got a camera to go with it. So, yeah. The wife found a good deal for me online, and I said, cool, now I can at least see the people, and they can see me, and so that way now I got to be careful when I roll my eyes or when I do things like, Jesus Christ, and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, fortunately, we won't have much of that today.
No, I can't tell you how excited I am about today. I mean, because we were going to try to get her last season, and it didn't work out timing-wise with when things were going on with COVID, and everything was kind of, but now we're cruising it, and honestly, can I tell you, I am just beside myself with watching parts of our media struggle so much to not tell us the good news in favor of always doing the bad news. I mean, the CDC comes out and goes, hey, if you got the vaccine, you can hang out with people. Immediately they got Dr. Fauci. Whoa. What are you talking about here? Pretty soon people are going to start ignoring me. I like the limelight, I'm like, well, wait. Well, if you're vaccinated, why wouldn't you be able to, I don't know, lead a normal life?
I know, and you see more and more of people who just love chaos and love craziness, and I'm like, nah, if it does what they say it does, why wouldn't we be able to do that? And if it doesn't get us to that place, why bother taking it?
It's funny. Okay, so one of the administrators at the radio station where I work, the other day I was there running the board for baseball for a college game, and she said, "Oh, guess what? And I'm like, what? She wasn't wearing her mask because she was at her desk, but I was walking in without mine because I don't listen to rules. And she said, I just gave blood and they always test. And I apparently have the antibodies. I didn't even know I had the antibodies. I didn't even know I had COVID. I said, well, the way the human body works, Leslie, is it could very well be that you felt maybe a little run down, but you just didn't get sick enough. Your body kicked in and fought it off. And by the way, the studies are showing, because we only have 10 months worth of data right now because it's only been around, or I guess maybe 12 months by now, but people that had it and recovered are still showing positive for antibodies. She goes, oh, wow. I said, so that's a good thing. And she said, yeah, but what if I accidentally killed somebody? I went, what? She said, well, I didn't know I had COVID. I could have killed somebody. I'm like, if you didn't know, chances are you were fighting it, so you couldn't have spread it. That's the way it works. Well, that's not what I heard. Like, no, that's the problem. They went so all in the fear porn, you actually believe that you could be completely well and still get people sick. And that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and that's a lot to shoulder that I'm randomly walking around killing people and don't even know it. That is, that's a lot.
And I had to say, I said, look, Leslie, think about it. I mean, you didn't get sick, which means you didn't pass anything. You have to actually be symptomatic to pass something. She goes, right. I didn't really think of it that way. I said, I know. That's part of the problem. And now you've got people getting vaccinated. You've got people who are testing positive for the antibodies. They're staying in your system longer. This should be stuff that's on the news every day saying, hey, we're turning the corner. It's positive. No, because it's fear porn that they're looking for, not, I don't know, Glenda the Good Witch porn, which, by the way, is really cool stuff if you can find it. He's like, ooh, that feels good. Ooh. Sorry.
Well, I'm hoping that as we get into summer and more people get vaccinated and all that, that we can really get back to normal.
I'm worried that we're going to end up still having a section of people. I just don't know how big that population is, but we're going to have a group of people who are so afraid. I don't know what it's going to take. I think there's just going to be almost perpetual fear in some people. You know, granted, I was on the exact opposite end. I was walking around going, you know, I wasn't like not taking it seriously, but I wasn't going to like crawl into a hole and cry. I got more upset after 3 months when we realized, oh, okay, we now have a better understanding of this. We can kind of back off. And being in the state of Georgia, that helped. When we were opening up and we could go to restaurants again after about 6 weeks, we were doing things with friends. I was like, okay, we can manage this. But then you talk to people from around the country that are still living like it just dropped yesterday.
Yeah, and I'm thankful that I'm not in that place. I would be losing my mind.
I would too. You know, our good friend, Dr. Ryan, who we'll probably try to get on the show this season. He was with us in our first season on Young Frankenstein when he was talking about the movie going through med school. He said he went to go visit some folks in Boston, and he said, I didn't realize just how different it was going from Georgia to Massachusetts, the rules. He said, everyone is wearing masks while they're jogging, when they're in their car, riding a bike, not close to anybody. They're just constantly wearing them. I'm like, I couldn't live that way at all.
Well, I don't get that because that isn't how viruses work.
I mean, that's not even what the CDC is saying, but people just hear the message, wear your mask, and that's it. That's all they hear.
Yeah. Well, and I've got that rebel gene in me, I guess, that I'm like, I will wear it for the very few minutes that I'm in a place that requires it. And I have to be in that place, you know, like maybe the hospital.
Oh, you know what? I should have had mine. I've got mine. It's the same one I wore since the very beginning, and I actually wrote the words fear porn on it, which is great when I have to wear it. But, you know, enough about that, because we got a guest coming in a minute. I just want to find out, is there anything else that's been going on your end this week? I know I kind of just took it down that tunnel, but I was like, I wanted to because we're getting all this good news, and it gets buried in favor of anything that's just going to, you know, create anxiety and fear. And it's an irk of mine. It's a rant that I like to go on from time to time.
Yeah, no, it is for me too. And I think everybody's, we're all dealing with it. So it's just become such a culture wide issue that, you know, and everybody's talking about it all the time. But no, for me, I'm just getting ready for spring, and
Pollen season. Did you get the blower
Oh my
out?
gosh. Yeah, I actually had to cut grass yesterday. My grass is out, and I walked in the house and I look like an ad for Benadryl. You know, my eyes are all red, and I'm like, well, we have no shortage of pollen this year. So
Yeah, I can't believe that. I mean, we're already getting to the point where you come in and you like do this and you look like Pigpen, or like the kids from 1941 after they've fallen off the bed when the upstairs falls down. Remember when he fires a gun in the house and they land and he goes, Dad, can we do that again?
yeah, that's exactly how I felt.
Yep. All that pollen.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's do this because we want to make sure that we bring our guest on and make her the highlight of what is going to be a fantastic show. So let's do this. Let us say to the audience, put your hands together and welcome to the Listener's Lounge, Autumn Fischer.
Hello.
Well, hello. There's that voice I love hearing almost every morning. You guys go on.
Do you hear my voice every morning? I don't know if I speak every morning.
Well, see, there you go. Now all of a sudden, someone in your team might hear that and like, do I leave that in? Yeah, I do hear you most mornings. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's not because I'm not
if we
listening.
Listen long enough, we hear you.
If you listen long enough and very closely, you can hear me.
All right. Well, let's set the stage as we always do at the very beginning. We like to give the audience an understanding of who the person is and why we've got him on. Autumn, let's go back to the very beginning. When did you first start finding that a career in either radio, broadcast, performance, because you've got kind of all of that in your background? When did you first decide this is a kind of a career path I want to go down?
It really, when it turned into an actual opportunity for a career was when Eric lost his job. When he was unceremoniously fired from the band he created, the Regular Guys, and he wanted to start his own podcast in his basement. I was very
That's not creepy.
No, it wasn't. I mean, podcasts usually start out in some sort of creepy scenario.
Would you want to come on over and podcast in my basement?
Yeah. Good thing I'd known him already for 14 years or something. So I trusted his basement and his motives.
Can I get you to load the sofa in the van? But go in first.
Yeah. Are you about a size 14? At the time I was, because I was very pregnant. I was teaching English as a second language. I had a steady job, and I sort of took a gamble and said, yeah, I'll quit my steady job, super pregnant, and just go podcast for some money in your basement.
Oh, wow.
And it actually, just realizing now, it kind of mirrors the beginning of my the very start of my radio career, if you could call it that, which was when I started interning for the Regular Guys. I started interning for them, and I quit going to my little community college. Like, I think I had 2 more credits left to graduate, quote unquote, with an associate's degree in some stupid computer information systems, whatever that means.
Who would ever use that?
And no, I wouldn't have. There's no way. You know what I mean? It was like taking apart CPUs and things. Like installing a hard drive. That stuff is gone now. Anyway, so I quit going to college to go work for free and be an intern and wake up at 4 a.m. and drive all the way into Atlanta from Lawrenceville, Georgia, and that seemed like a bad decision, but it ended up, being something that has led me to where I am right this minute.
Well, ironically, that's kind of where I wanted to start, rather than the start of the von Haessler doctrine, kind of the start of you. How did you even get your foot in the door to where they thought, well, you are a talent, you are a voice actor, you are capable of mimicking and creating characters. When did that start? That
started after I started working in promotions at the radio station, because if you're cool to be around and you stick around, you hang out at the radio station, people give you a job. So I started doing promotions, and then people started to realize that I could sing, or I was funny, or I could do little voices. And then they asked me to start doing voiceover stuff. And so I got some little commercials for QT, local QT stations, or you remember the Bod Squad? On the Regular Guys, the Bod Squad, this, whatever day at Hooters in Roswell, and So yeah, that was the beginning. That was like the first time in a professional setting that people sort of included me as quote talent.
Mhm.
And then I took a real long break out of that. Like I left sort of entertainment and went into a more office environment, went back to school, got a degree from Georgia State, and then was teaching English. And that's when Eric came back. I mean, we'd always kept in touch. We were always friends.
Mhm.
But that's when he sort of came back around and offered me something else.
So was radio a passion for you? Was it something that you thought about getting back into? Or did just that when that opportunity came along, you thought, yeah, that's great. That's what I need to do.
I thought, yeah, that's great. I would love to do something. I mean, I think with any job that I loved, there was a performative element, you know, like I loved being a waitress weirdly because I liked sort of gauging the table and like the audience, you know, because every table's different. Some tables want you to like tap dance for them and like be their cruise director. And then others want to be left alone and like silently fill their waters secretly behind their you know what I mean? And so you have to like gauge that to be a good waitress or waiter. So I liked that kind of thing. I always, even when I was teaching English, you really have to, I mean, they were adults. And so we were on the same level and you had to keep them interested because they were adults and they were like, this is dumb. I don't want to be here. I hate this. I work a job. I can't believe this woman is making me do homework. You know, like I had to get on their side. You know what I mean? So I had to like know how to, I don't know, win them over.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all, what do they say? I'm a people person. But, you know, that's true. Those are those soft skills you got to have that not everybody can be taught. Some people just have them.
Honestly, my dad is a real charmer, you know, and I think that he passed down the ability to like charm the shit out of people if I need to. Sometimes I don't want to and I don't. You know what I mean? Sometimes I just like sit back and like, you know, that gif of Homer backing slowly into the
shrubs.
Into the shrubs. Sometimes I'm that at a party and I'm weird. And other times I'm like, all right, let's go.
All right. So you kind of caught Eric's eye or ear or both in terms of radio promotion and voice talent. What was the first kind of bit or character that you remember? Did you ever talk with Eric about like what was it that caught his attention that he kept you sort of in his Rolodex of talent?
Well, we really were friends first.
Okay.
And I think that there were a lot of women that would pass through the intern sort of carousel that were there because they were hot. And a lot of times when you're young and hot, there's not a lot of substance behind that. And, you know, all you have to do is, you know, fish Eric in with like talk of the Beatles or like music knowledge or movie knowledge. And I think that I was a little bit of an outlier as far as the women that were going through there were concerned. And I am typically like a dude's girl.
No,
and I'm
totally.
not one of those people who are like, I just don't get along with women. I hate that. That's really stupid. I get along with women fine. But I do enjoy being around men because there's a lot less pretending that you have to do. And there's some like dirty stuff that you can say and people aren't as shocked.
Yeah,
you know? Like women are always shocked at things that I say.
Which is funny because like my wife is exactly the same way. And part of it is probably because she's the only girl with 4 brothers. And so she just grew up in a male-dominated household. It's not like
way
she doesn't
more
have.
fun.
Yeah, she says it all the time. She said, you know, I don't have to worry about pretense and people being in a bitchy mood.
Yeah.
So
it's way more
totally
fun.
get it.
Yeah.
So,
So
right,
anyway, I think that's how I caught his eye. And then, yeah, I think I remember my very first impression that I ever did was in kindergarten, and it was Pee Wee. Well, yeah, it was Pee Wee Herman, and I would just like, and you know, the kids in the class liked it, and my teacher liked it. She even signed my yearbook to my little Pee Wee Herman.
Oh yeah, no, I can't do my Pee Wee Herman impression. I have to only do that in adult theaters, and then they take me to jail.
You know what my favorite? This isn't my impression, but this is my favorite impression of Pee Wee is going la 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 la. You know how he walks around? La 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 la. I'm not very good at it, but I just love that expression.
Here's the something, and we're going to probably jump around a little bit because I still want to kind of try to do this somewhat chronologically, but we had Tim Andrews on last year. And so we get you're the two, like the male and female voice talent, as far as I'm concerned about all the voices. But what he talked about himself, he said, well, I'm kind of thinking of myself as more of a mimic. I kind of take on the mannerisms. I'm not a perfect imitation. Sure. And I think when you go all in with what you are selling, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be like an identical mirror copy of who you're imitating. It's actually almost more fun. It's like the caricatures you see drawn at the beach. We know who that is, but nobody looks like that in real life. And yet we know exactly what it is. And same with your voice talent. I think we sense the characters you're creating.
Yeah. A lot of times doing an impression really is just pressing the gas and just like trying going. Because the more you stop and think about it, the more you get all caught up in like, oh, it's not right. It's weird. You just got to go and just try and go.
Right.
And sometimes it's real bad, but I think you get more success when you just press the gas on an impression.
Well, we had talked about this a few weeks ago with someone that even on Saturday Night Live, they kind of get close and it's kind of, like a hand grenade, close enough, we know who that is. And I think we were even talking about Chevy Chase or somebody who did one of the presidents, but he had a mustache when he did it. And it's like everybody knew that the president didn't have a mustache, but they knew who he was imitating.
Right. Yeah, and I think
Chevy
that's part
Chase
of the fun.
Was such a douche, right? Like he probably was like, I don't care, I'm not shaving.
Yeah, right. Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's kind of been like that his whole career, but that's behind the scenes. So, okay, you got a chance to, be friends with him. And for whatever reason, when things kind of went south for the second or third time for the regular guys, Eric decided I got to do something different and didn't really have an opening anywhere. So he was going to do a podcast. So how did that roll? That was a weekly thing, wasn't it?
That was a daily thing.
Oh, you did a daily? Okay.
Every morning. And he wanted to do it. It was like for many hours a day. It was like 3 hours every morning.
So he tried to create basically a radio show via a podcast medium.
Right. But we would go without commercials, without breaks. We would just go. And it was interesting. It was in a really hard time for Eric, I think his brother had died, around that time or something. And then also the loss of this long suffering job that he had been in with Larry and something that he had created and then, like I said, just fired from, as if he wasn't a creator. Instead, he was just some co-pilot that could just be easily, you know what I mean? I think he was dealing with a lot, but it was the smartest thing for him to do, to keep chops, to practice, hosting. So yeah, it was a weird time. It was a really fun time because we could do anything we wanted. And if you go back to those basement shows, I think they're on SoundCloud. They are amazing.
Yeah. So that's a nice segue question because we find, at least for me, because I started in radio and started doing a podcast on the side. Yeah. I'm so schooled in what I can and can't say on air that it actually took me a while to loosen up on a podcast.
Oh.
You were kind of the opposite in some way. You guys kind of had a chance to do whatever you wanted. How do you feel having to be careful all the time now, especially Eric knowing at any given time, I've already gotten fired for things that got out on the air.
Oh, yeah.
How do you guys work on that?
He's real paranoid. Like we'll say, put me and Tim together and, things get
Yes, I
weird.
know.
Yeah.
It's great.
So
that's why we listen
to some radio. Yeah. If you listen to some Radio Labyrinth episodes, you can really get into it. But so during the breaks, we'll be riffing on something and we'll say something really horrible. And Eric's like, don't say that. You're like, yeah, no shit. We're not going to say that. We're not going to say that horrible thing on WSB.
Well, being an avid, not just a talent there, but as a avid listener, the day that phone call got through from the producer where the F-bomb got dropped on the air, I was like, oh no.
I mean, stuff like that happens.
I know, but I just kept thinking, is Eric cursed? Because it wasn't his fault. He had nothing to do with it. He wasn't screening the call, didn't know anything about it. I was like, oh, did Jared? Oh no.
Poor
but
Jared.
Thankfully everybody's allowed sometimes a mulligan. And But I have to imagine he was feeling really like wonky for a while with that.
Oh,
one.
of course. And I mean, I've said things like that have really freaked him out and stuff that I probably shouldn't have said. But sometimes when you're improving and also doing an impression, sometimes you just say things.
Right.
And I've gotten way better at knowing where to go. But like, I can give you an example of one where it's not that bad, but I was being.
It's fine for this show.
Yeah. It depends on what show. I was being like Greta Thunberg, and I was talking about like I should have gotten my period or something, because I was saying that like my parents won't let me grow, like I'm still in, I should be in school, and I talked about not getting my period, and he was like, okay,
what are you doing? It's a biological thing. It's not like that's a bad thing, is it?
I know it. So it's for him. Some of the things that are borderline, he still doesn't want to say because he agrees with like maybe me or Tim as far as it should be allowed to be said. But people listening and cancel culture and finding reasons to, cancel you, I guess. People are doing that. So
there's an entire, I mean, it used to be, I think it's still called by some, as far as like as a nickname, is the grievance industry. There's always a group of people who are aggrieved over something. And if there's not something today, they'll go find it because they've got something to have to go after. They have to be tilting at windmills because that's their only, lot in life, apparently.
Yeah. And it's weird. It's weird with impressions too. Like you can't do an African-American voice, but you can do like an Irish voice.
Always beating up on the Irish.
Yeah. I mean, the Irish have gotten beaten up. Like they're a society that have not been welcomed. I mean, not the same as African Americans in this country, but even if you're just being like a black lady who's like, that's dumb. Like that's not saying anything against someone who's black. I'm not saying like, I'm dumb because I'm black. Like, you're not doing that.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're allowed to just voice someone that sounds like something.
You can play a dumb Southerner, no problem.
Right. The point is I think the argument, right, is that Southerners are not discriminated against as much as someone who is black or someone who is, I don't know, something else. And
this happened to me. I knew this was coming about a dozen years ago. I used to be involved with a lot of theater. And I was directing a children's show for the holidays called The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. And I used to always do sort of a Speedy Gonzalez voice. Just kind of like, come on, we got to speed it up. Let's go. Come on, faster. And all of a sudden, one girl goes, oh my God, you're such a racist. Like, what? I'm Speedy Gonzalez. It's a cartoon character.
Well, that character's racist.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, if I said, is it okay if I talk like this? Is that okay? She goes, well, that's fine because that's French. I'm like, wait, what's the difference?
No, it's like saying, is there a better word that I can call you besides Mexican? Because Mexican's not a nice thing to say to someone. Like, yes, it's. What are you talking? You know what I mean? People have weird feelings about. There's a weird spectrum of what's acceptable, and
but
it's not
shifting.
Based on logic.
No, it's not, and it keeps shifting.
Because and it shifts around. Yeah,
that's the hard part. How do you know? Like, I'm kicking a goal over there, and all of a sudden, it's like, whoops! I meant to kick it over here.
And there's no context or intent taken into consideration ever.
No.
Mm-hmm. That is a huge issue. We talked about that with Tim Andrews about how comedy, when we grew up, I mean, because Tim and I I think we're almost exactly the same age. We're children of the 80s. We're Gen Xers. We grew up in a period where every comedian was trying to say is the most horrible things possible. And we were all like, that's funny. And then a lot of times you learned a lot about yourself through the comedy. Now it's like, how do you learn if you can't, like, from time out of mind? You look at theater, you look at Shakespeare, you look at Moliere. We mock the things, or we make satire of things that people can then relate to, but we blow it up in such a ridiculous way to kind of almost shine a light on you, like you're magnifying the problems through satire. That's the point of it. And now I feel like, we better not be too satirical. Someone's not going to get it.
Or someone's going to be offended by it.
Well, I don't care, but I mean, that's true, yes.
Right, but then you don't care, but people will, and then it's not available to soak in.
Here's a crazy thing that's been happening, and I think this is part of the reason, Eric and you and everybody has to be kind of always a little bit on eggshells. me and I had a female producer, and we would just kind of have these sessions kind of like we're doing now, where we would just riff for about 10 minutes in between the news. And I don't remember what we were talking about. It was something innocuous. And all of a sudden someone called and she went to get the phone, and I hear her basically having an argument in the other room. And then she came back and she goes, okay, during a commercial break, she said, someone was really upset. I'm like, what did we say? They said something about, you were kind of mocking somebody from overseas or something that happened in the news, like some weird, odd news story. And I said, well, did that bother them? She goes, no, she actually said, it doesn't bother me, but I feel like people who are listening, someone might be bothered, and I thought I should call and tell you. Like, so
Weird.
You weren't bothered, but you thought someone might be. So you thought it upon yourself to call us and say, hey, just so you know, that might be offensive to somebody.
Yeah, thank you
guess
for
what?
thinking of all our Bangladeshi listeners.
Everything at some point could be upsetting to somebody,
Yeah. And I mean, I don't personally want to upset anyone. I never do anything with the intention of like, this is going to piss off a culture,
Right.
And if I did, I would want to hear the reasons why someone was upset by it.
Mhm.
But then there is also an element of, we are all allowed to be offended. I would never, discriminate or something based on someone's accent. Like I said, like I taught English as a second language. I love languages. I was a linguist. Like there's nothing. Come to me with your Spanish accent. I do not think anything of you except like, where did you grow up?
Right. like that's a cool accent. How can I learn that? Like I'm
that's
always
cool.
thinking, how can I
you
learn?
from Bogota? Interesting. You sound different than like the people that I hear from like Guatemala.
Mhm.
I hear the, you know what I mean? So like I said, there's never people aren't interested in nuance or subtlety.
Right.
It's only about, are you against me or are you with me? And if you're not giving, if you're saying anything that sounds remotely like someone who might be against me, either whether it's through like asking questions or just not knowing about something, then you're against me and you're part of the problem, and it creates this huge divide between people. There's no conversation that's happening.
That's the part that bothers me a lot. And one of the things that I love doing about this particular format, what we're doing with the show, is that we've had a chance to talk to a lot of people. And when you get people one-on-one, you seem to be able to like reach some kind of a, hey,
Yes.
we're having a conversation. It's when the individual becomes now identified with the group or the mob, which is even worse, because
Mhm.
the mob takes on its own, chaotic identity and doesn't think. The mob never
Mhm.
thinks. That's the problem with the mob. The
Well,
mob
we're
is only
herd.
reactionary.
We're a herd animal. I say this all the time. We're herd animals. We don't want to upset the herd. So if we identify with a certain herd, then if you're against me, then and maybe you have a point, I'm in the hive mind. You know what I mean? Like I'm with the herd and I'm not going to upset the herd.
But what if my herd is everybody? Like,
Well, that's the thing. We're not I mean, we are animals, but we're not such simple animals.
I mean,
that we can't understand subtlety, like
I
a buffalo doesn't know.
Raised in such a way. Maybe I just got lucky. Maybe that's the thing. I can't wrap my mind around. I was raised in such a way that until you shit on me, and by the way, plenty of people of all different descriptions or group identities have done horrible things to me throughout my 50 years on this planet.
And we will continue to.
And Walt somehow continues to stay on the show.
And tonight is no exception.
Yes. Wait, hold on. Yeah.
You
Yep.
piece
No,
of
it's scheduled for us later this afternoon. There we go.
Yeah,
but in all
you had it
honesty,
coming.
Yeah. Oh, drop your camera again, loser.
Until somebody earns my ire, I don't go into any situation assuming they're against me. I don't ever.
I know, but sometimes I think that comes from an upbringing. You know what I mean? Like
I think that's why I said maybe that's how I was raised.
Maybe. Like there are people who grew up
Oh,
in
you
a
mean
scenario.
them? You mean the other groups looking? Like which are you talking about?
I'm
'Cause-
talking about someone who goes into a situation looking
for a fight.
or just looking to be marginalized in some way.
I don't even
know-
understand that. I mean, I understand it's an industry. I understand it's if you play the
Well,
victim
there's
for
that
everything.
too. There's people who are making money on people being marginalized or living in fear and stuff like
Well,
that.
something that
Mhm.
somebody said this week that I think was pretty insightful was hurt people hurt people.
Oh, I love that phrase.
I do too. And
That is a good, that's so true.
yeah, it is. And so whether they are actually hurt, whether there is some deep wound, or they perceive that they are, then they are going to hurt other people. And
Yeah,
And
if
when
you've been
yeah.
told you're a victim of something that's not your fault, now you don't have to take any responsibility for your own actions. Now it's somebody else's problem.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. And it depends on your mind, like what kind of mind you have, just maybe through nature, as to whether you're going to say, well, I'm going to climb my way out of that and accept the challenges that I have that may be more difficult than someone else, and I'm just going to do it because blah, blah, blah. But then there are other people who, I don't know whether it has to do with like intelligence, or maybe it's just like the right set of nurture or the wrong set of nurture that makes you say, no, I just can never succeed because of these setbacks that I
Right.
was born into.
Yeah, I and that may be something where, like I said, maybe I'm lacking the genetic makeup to understand that. I've always been taught you fight for everything you want, and if you fall, you get up tomorrow and try again. And I don't have a mentality that allows me to go, I give up. I'm just going to sit here and let somebody else take care of me. I just have never been made that way.
It's difficult to struggle. Struggle is difficult, especially when
I had 4 girls and a wife. I struggle.
yeah.
Try putting them
But
all through college.
Oh, and also like I know that this sounds like mumbo jumbo, but I really do believe about trauma, sort of what is it called? Like passed along through generations.
Right.
And I also heard that it takes like 3 generations to not erase, but to recover from a trauma. So, people were born and raised in a certain environment. A lot of trauma happened to them. Maybe trauma like World War II, maybe trauma like slavery, maybe trauma like physical abuse, domestic abuse, whatever. And it takes 3 generations to work through stuff like that. But I think within that, those people then also have to do the work themselves, because if they fall back and just say like, well, I don't know, I can't do anything, it's just the way it was, then they're not doing any of the work to fix that, and then it gets passed on to the next generation.
Right. And a lot of that you can also see, and it makes sense if it's generational within the society versus people who come in from other cultures. Because I've got a lot of conversations on the air. Yeah, I get in my role, I get to meet a lot of cool people, and it's amazing that people who suffered in less affluent countries that come here to start over and they do it the right way, their kids are like the model kids in school. They want their children to realize, and maybe because of that trauma in their own lives growing up in a different country, they're doing everything they can to make sure those kids understand and appreciate what you have here. And if you've never had an understanding of where you could be in terms of other countries, you always think, oh, it's horrible here. But if you've never really seen the world, if you've been kind of trapped in your bubble, you don't have context, right?
No, you don't. Yeah.
One of the things I thought was the best thing we ever did with our kids, we went to, before the first kid went to college, we knew we're not going to have any more money after this. We went and did a family cruise. Like that was our big vacation. We saved for a couple of years. And although it was one of those things where we were going to this boat ranch or this river ranch in Belize, we traveled on a bus for about an hour through some of the poorest areas. I kept saying to my kids, I want you to pay attention to these people that are living like this. Don't ever complain when you have a carpeted bedroom and your own computer and your own phone, and you tell me I don't own anything or I don't have anything. It's just they never had that context, and having seen it, it opened their eyes that there is a bigger, wider world. And it actually caused my other girls, when they went to college, they purposely wanted to do an entire semester overseas so they could actually experience their education through another culture, through another country, and it was great.
That's nice.
So, I don't think by any stretch of the imagination are we rich. In fact, if anything, I'm scraping pennies and working 7 days a week. I haven't taken a vacation, honest vacation, in 3.5, almost 4 years. I work 7 days a week. I have no choice. I have 4 kids that boom, 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 boom. They're all in
too
college.
many kids.
Right.
Yeah,
You should have given one away.
I should
Yeah.
have. If I had sold one,
Float it down the river. Bye.
Yep.
Hello.
Easy
Yeah,
fix.
that'd be my luck. That would have been the one that would
3
have been
is
picked
still
up by
too many, though. Walt, we got X.
Walt's got 3 girls. I got 4.
Oh,
So
that's too many.
Yeah, but
Just a couple
one of
more, we
them
got a
was
softball team.
surprise, So
Oh, okay.
Well, and in fairness for the listeners, like they give a crap. 2 are mine from my first marriage. 2 are my wife's from her first marriage.
that
but
makes
when
more
we
sense
met,
now.
it's a blended family. But they act like sisters. They
That's sweet.
anybody who meets us, they don't even think that we were remarried. They all act like they're all part of the same family.
Aw,
They all
that's
call me
nice.
dad. They call her mom. I mean, it is what it is.
That's
so-
really nice.
But the fact is, they ended up being stair steps. Like I had a senior in high school, I had a junior in high school, I had a sophomore in high school, and then I had a 8th grader in middle school. So just as I thought I could get everybody out, I had everybody. I had 3 in college out at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to be paying for that for 40 more years.
yes.
Wait, they should be paying for it.
Well, they are
Their
going.
student loan.
Well,
Right.
yeah, but that's not how it works now.
Ed'll get forgiven. It's fine.
No, oh gee.
Money comes from I don't care where.
Hold on.
Money just keeps coming.
It's the big tree.
Sorry,
out back.
sorry, kids. I don't know what's happening with money. I don't understand how it works. I don't understand. It's not based on anything.
When did this change from finding out Autumn's story to now all of a sudden we're turning it into our own talk show?
I know. Well,
But
it's
you know what? This is
interesting.
great
It's
stuff.
Interesting.
This is great conversation to have. Well, let me pull it back because we're almost through the interview segment, and of course, you said you'd probably hang out with us for a little bit, so we'll
yeah,
have you
it's
till the end of the show. You are a regular talent now. For folks who are listening, if you download the WSB Radio app, or if you go online and find WSB's website, you'll be able to stream. I mean, it's like any other radio station, 24/7, but it is the powerhouse of free speech in the Southeast. I know it used to be called the 50,000 watt blowtorch of free speech when Neil Bortz was there, because it's a clear channel. There is no other AM 750 in the entire country. And so it is a huge market for WSB listeners. Check it out. 9 to noon, Autumn, one of the voices on the von Haessler doctrine. And what I love about what you guys do, and I'm going to get to my question here in just a second, I'm just setting it all up for the audience. What I love what both you and Tim do is you seem to be aware, which I think is good for comedy's sakes. There is no perfect villain and there is no perfect good guy. Everybody that you talk about that's in the news can be mocked both ways at the same time, and it's funny.
Yeah, that's really important. I mean, what are we doing? Are we? Do you want to be lectured to? And only and okay. It would feel like we're preaching to you about something and trying to teach you, which is annoying. And 2, it's not funny to be good. You know what I mean?
Wait a minute.
It's funny to be
That is true.
stupid. It's funny to be controversial. It's funny. It's not funny to just be like a normal person with, subtleties and flaws and good things about it. It's
For an example,
like you said, a caricature. You're going to draw somebody has like just a little bit of a big nose. The caricature is going to have like a big schnoz.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I guess for context for the audience, if they've never listened to the show, you could be doing a Nancy Pelosi impression based on what's in the news that day that makes it sound like you don't like her if you just listen to only one bite. And then the next time you're saying something that's like, oh, okay, so she's, basically slamming the president and deserves to, and vice versa. When Tim does, when he used to do President Trump, and he'll still do that voice, sometimes he makes Trump sound like an absolute goofball, and sometimes he has Trump going after somebody else who's in the news. And I
and you're
love
like,
that.
go Trump.
Right.
I hate you.
Either way, it's funny. It's funny because you imagine these people as sort of like the same Sid and Marty Krofft puppets from what was that video from Genesis?
You know
the one, with
Land of Confusion.
Ronald Reagan's The Land of Confusion. Yeah, where they all, like, that's how I imagine when you guys are acting out your political personas. I'm like, oh, it's the Sid and Marty Krofft version of these people.
Oh, that's fun. I always feel like my AOC is kind of my own uneducated thoughts. So like all the dumb stuff she says is really based on like, well, it just feels better to say that, or feel this way, or like, I wish things were that way. And so like, why can't we just do that? Because sometimes she is saying that, but then other times she does have like, I really do think that sometimes AOC is trying to come from a good place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that she is a politician, and politicians are their own weird
Well, I think she's
mental
an
disorder?
accidental
Yeah, I
politician
was
at
gonna
some
say,
point.
she's
Like she
still-
doesn't understand it quite well,
Yeah.
but she knows what she thinks she's supposed to do. Like she has an
Yeah.
idea of what she thinks a politician is.
And a lot of her stuff is she wants to do good, but it does not like
Doesn't know how to
translate
approach
into
it.
reality.
Yeah, it's not
Right.
smart.
Yeah. So, and listen, isn't that all of us? Don't we all want to do things that are good and
I like to believe
make
that.
things right, but it doesn't always make sense?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
And I find myself if I'm going to be an honest, talk personality, the way I look at it, there's been times where I'm like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I agree with what AOC tweeted today.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, and that's fine. I don't have to agree with 90% of what else she believes, but when she says something that I think is correct, I'm not going to say, oh, sorry, I can't like her at all.
She's a dum-dum.
That doesn't make any sense either. Because I want to believe that there are people who are listening to me who go, not sure if I kind of believe everything, but if I say it in a way that hits home once out of every 10 times, they might go, okay, there's something there.
Yeah.
And I believe that. You got to be true.
Well, and I think it's easy as a listener of talk shows for all these years that the brilliant people are the ones who agree with me. And that's not probably true all the time. But I think with her, sometimes when I listen to you and you're doing her, I'm like, that has to be just fish in a barrel. Because she
Yeah.
she makes it so easy for you.
That's an easy shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there are others
true.
that you have said things and I'm like, wow, that was really insightful the way you really crushed them. So
Well, and for the audience, it's not just political people that they'll be character or satirizing. I love when you go after celebrities.
Yeah.
I love when you go after drunk celebrity voices. That I texted you one time. I try not to interrupt the show, but you said something about, you want to see my kitty cat? And I knew exactly what you were talking about
Well,
on
and
air.
Tim, oh man, and then Tim, he just set it up like the perfect little pitch.
Yes.
He said, like, what kind of cat was it? And I said, hairless.
Yeah, that actually, I almost didn't hear it because I think the setup was, well, you can see my kitty cat all over the internet.
Yeah. What kind of cat is it? And I was like, yes. In my mind, I was like, yes, hairless.
and I'm sure Eric was
Tim.
dying.
He didn't hear it. He went right past it. He doesn't have great hearing.
Oh.
So sometimes when he's talking, he doesn't like hear everything that Tim and I do or say.
That's because he's talking over you, and you
Yeah.
guys keep talking, and you're like, well,
Bless him.
I'm gonna get this joke out, damn it. So, all right, so the final, well, I say final, I mean, I'll let Walt get a word in here edgewise as
Walt.
well, but I mean, as far as where you are now, you're on daily, we set that up, people can listen to you. Where's Autumn Fischer 5 years from now? Where are we going on this magic journey into 2027, 2028,
Oh my
later
gosh.
in this decade?
I hope that the show is still doing as well as it is, because we keep being surprised at how well the show is doing. Not because we think we're dumb, but because, like, wow, we're still doing well and we're still increasing ratings and stuff. I hope that continues. I also hope that we're like syndicated or added on to like a big podcasting network, possibly, where we can do some content that's not as FCC friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that we would get crazy on there, but just to like loosen up a little bit. That would be really amazing. And yeah, I don't know. More money.
More money is
there's
good.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
when you
Spaceballs 2, the search for more money.
Spaceballs, what is it?
Yeah,
the
Spaceballs, the flamethrower.
The kids love
The
this.
kids love this one.
Yeah, we're big Mel Brooks fans here at the
I know.
Wilder Ride. So
I love that movie. I don't care. I remember I was with Tim and he thought Spaceballs was going to be dumb. He hated it and I made him watch it. And I love Spaceballs. And it was the first time, like when someone doesn't like something and you're with them and now all of a sudden you're seeing it through their eyes and you're like, uh-oh, this might be kind of dumb.
mm-hmm.
And he really ruined it that night for me because he thought Spaceballs was bad. But it doesn't change. It was just a small moment in time for me because Spaceballs is amazing.
Well, one of the things we've said on our show is when we saw Spaceballs when we were younger, it was amazing.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
We see the flaws more easily now versus some of the older things. I think
that's true. When she's walking into the thing and she's like, "It ain't Temple Beth Israel."
right.
Like,
Some things
right.
didn't age as well with
Waka
that
waka.
movie. But I still say one of the most brilliant things Mel Brooks did in that movie, and it's still one of my all-time favorite bits, is when they rent the movie before it's already finished and they're trying to catch up. That is comedy gold.
What am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie? Now. You're looking at now, sir. Everything that happens now is happening now. What happened to then? When? We missed it. When? Just now.
Just now.
Yeah,
It's
what's he
almost
say? He's like, go back to then. Oh, yeah, go back to then. When? Now. Now? Now. Why? All right, we can't. Why? We missed it. When? Just now.
It's almost like
We're at
his
now
version
now.
of the Abbott and Costello Who's on First. You know,
it's
it
a
was
brilliant scene.
It's and to this moment when he's turning around, he's like, where's the what the hell am I looking at? You know, and it's got the mirror within mirror because you're like, it's like the camera would have to be right there to have that effect. Loved it. And so yeah, to me, Spaceballs is one of those movies that has some fantastically funny moments. It just doesn't hold together like it did when I was 20.
Or maybe when I was, 8 and was laughing like crazy
Mhm.
at what was
Well,
happening.
and this is a great subject for another podcast day. I will tell you that I've had some conversation with my daughters about what movies, like what's the sweet spot of your growing up that then says those are the movies that you always go to. For me, if I look back between 11 and let's say 15, the teenage, preteen to teen years, I mean, that's Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's Empire Strikes Back. That's Blade Runner. That's, Aliens.
Breakfast Club.
I'm like, oh yeah, and then those movies, like, and I'm like, oh my god, those are the formative movies, and I find myself going back to those kind of movies. And so when I see a movie that's like, Harold and Kumar go to the White Castle, I'm thinking, I don't find it funny. Where I know the generation that was 11, 12, 13 that saw it go, oh my god, that is the funniest movie. And I think, is there something that happens in your brain as you're growing up into adolescence that those movies, or maybe the music or whatever entertainment, those become your formative movies, and you judge everything else by that.
Yeah, I wonder what is happening. Like all of a sudden you become like a little bit more discerning.
Mm-hmm.
And you understand some whatever like emotionality might be happening like you're talking about The Breakfast Club.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be, if you're too young and you watch that, you're like, what?
Right.
So who cares? And then you're at this like sweet spot age where you're like, I am that girl.
The crazy thing about that one, and having, daughters, and my wife and I being both, Gen Xers, we try to keep, try to educate our children with movies of the 80s because those are the best movies, right? So we brought them down to watch Breakfast Club when they were all in high school, and they started off going, this looks so old. Like they just see the way it's filmed. Yeah. Halfway through, their eyes, they're glued, and they love that movie. There's certain movies that just transcend.
You can cut that part out. Sorry.
Nope. We're not
I'm going to make that actually from now on. That's my Autumn text tone. Whenever she texts me, it's going to be that.
Yeah, I need to get your number so that you can text me and I can have that as my text tone.
All right, so we definitely want to see Autumn continue on, and of course, we are big fans, obviously, of the Wilder Ride, of the Von Haessler Doctrine, and all the talent there. And so, thank you for coming on and being a guest. You're going to hang out with us for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, let's do this, Walt. It's time for us to move into a segment that we now call.
God, what is this? Stop it! I didn't get me out of this hell.
Yeah, I don't know if this one fits.
Why did you stop?
This one's rough. So,
by the way, we should say this was selected because we started doing this on our Facebook group. It's a closed group. So if you want to be part of the voting, you've got to go to our Facebook page. We'll tell you at the end, but then you have to join the group and boom, you can participate in the polls.
Yeah, absolutely. And this film, if you can call it that, is a 2015 masterpiece. And so in 2015, the budget for this movie, you're not going to believe this, was estimated at $150 million.
No, it wasn't.
It brought in 150. Oh, wait, no, I'm looking at Fury Road.
Yeah, that would be a better movie.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is Killer Pinata. Also from 2015, with a budget of $5,000. Just to ballpark this for you and give you
wow.
Fury Road, Mad Max Fury Road got an 8.1 on IMDb.
Oh, that's low, actually. That should be a lot higher.
It should be higher. Killer Pinata got 4.3, and that's higher than it should have gotten.
So it's half the movie of Fury Road. That's an interesting way of looking at
At
it.
only $5,000 budget. So
Hey,
Well, let's see.
Pinatas have got to be pissed.
Well, they've taken a beating for too long. It's time
Ooh,
to.
is that the log line? Because if it's not, they fucked up.
they don't have one.
No one thought to creatively do that.
It wasn't in the budget.
It was not in the
They
budget.
They don't have that guy's voice. It's like, in a world where they've taken the stick up their butts way too many times, shooting candy for little kids, it's time to get some payback.
Yeah, that's pretty much this movie. And this is like the worst of everything that you could ever do in a movie. And it's shameless. I mean, I like, you know, sometimes I get on here and I try to describe these things and it's hard to describe. I will just say that the first credit on IMDb for this movie is a lady named Mrs. Alcavado. She is credited in the film as Birthday Girl.
Is everybody there?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Was that me?
Is that me?
Did we just lose internet connection?
Is that you?
I hear
Hold
everyone.
on. Does everybody hear me?
Yep.
Walt, did I flake out?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, dude, I was tripping. I was eating some of your gummies, and I don't know what happened.
Shit got real weird.
Yeah,
I was
my
like-
gummies will do that.
I was like, it's almost like I paused time, and I was moving between you guys. It was great.
Welcome to my world.
Okay, so like the last thing I heard was the first credit.
The first credit
Okay.
on IMDb is a lady named Amelia Acevedo, who is credited with the part of Birthday Girl.
Okay.
There is a character in the movie called Rosetta Stone.
Shut up.
You kind of think that, okay, you've got someone named Rosetta Stone. You're going to have other creative names. You don't. You have no more creative names.
Did she speak all the languages, or did she know
Yeah,
how to?
No, it wasn't
Did that
even
name
that
come
creative.
into play
Alan.
at any point?
She barely spoke English.
Did it serve the story at all?
No, it did not.
Oh man.
She was actually killed pretty quick, and I was glad.
She was broken into pieces.
She was. The main character in here doesn't even arrive until like 20 minutes into the movie. And
Smart.
his name is Scott, and he is played by a guy named Billy Chingary. This guy has been in nothing else. He's been in 4 other movies that nobody's ever heard of. He hasn't been on any good TV shows, and like he is best known for Killer Pinata,
Oh well. now.
Oh,
and he should be ashamed of himself. So I wanted to read what they say about this movie. So the IMDb write-up: a possessed pinata seeking to avenge the savagery that humanity has inflicted on his kind picks off a group of friends one by one in an unending night of terror. So, yes, that is true. However, towards the end of the movie, they have a lady come in who has a hook hand and she's going to go attack the pinata and kill it. She explains why the pinata is doing all this, and it has nothing to do with that plot. The plot that she gives is a pinata that used to be a man who worked in a pinata factory was bullied by other employees and thrown into the grinder. His spirit seeped into a pinata, and that pinata is now seeking revenge.
oh.
This is like a whole 5-minute thing that she goes into. They have a whole animated segment showing this guy getting thrown into the
Animated?
grinder. What's that?
Well, they
It was
couldn't afford the.
animated?
Oh, it was
They couldn't
animated.
afford.
It's
They couldn't afford the visual effects.
yes, and like he
Yeah.
gets all ground up. His blood goes into the pinata he was working on, and it is a totally different plot than what they say in the movie. Like it has been through the whole rest of the movie. So it's like the most confusing thing I've ever heard. And then she gets stabbed, and that's it.
Oh, she gets stabbed. She doesn't hook it. She doesn't hook
No,
the pinata.
nope.
with
She
her
dies
hook hand?
before the hook hand is able to be at all effective.
So she was just a vehicle for the second plot.
The right plot B. See, now I was like, that would be a great Killer Pinata 2, or
Oh Oh yeah, sure.
Maybe a whole other movie of something else, maybe like Superballs that attack people or something. But they throw that in there for some unknown reason. I guess the animator just kind of went off on his own and did his own thing. So they had to have a tie-in. I have no idea.
Could very well be that two people had two different versions of what they thought was the script they were working on, and whoops.
Oh, you know what?
I would say that's
a really good point. Because maybe the animators had to have like a ton of time, and that was like the first iteration of the script.
That very well could be. It very well could be. And actually, the animation is not bad. The animation is better than the rest of the movie. And I mean, by a long shot. And I would bet that like $4,900 of the $5,000 budget was on the animation. The other 100 was on the hook hand, and everybody else just kind of showed up.
All right, since I'm probably never going to watch this, do they set it up for a sequel?
I don't know, Alan. It's really hard to tell.
Now, Walt, you did watch the movie, right?
I did, and here's the problem. Okay, well, let me lead up to the problem first. There is a positive in this, other than the animation. We have a montage. And the montage is the two main characters who have like a knife and a broom and a stick. I mean, a broom and a piece of string. And out of that, they make a shotgun, a compound bow, and several other weapons out of the block of wood.
Oh.
Now, I've owned shotguns, and I didn't realize that you could make them.
Now, I'm kind of into this. Now, this is making me think that they're aware of themselves, and this is tongue-in-cheek.
They are. I
mean, this is a definite MacGyver reference.
It is. And it's also a reference to the fact that it had a $5,000 budget, I think. But yes, you do realize
but when you're writing a
point,
story and you're telling me that you're going to create these things out of like string and blocks of wood, you want to believe they're at least somewhat self-aware of that they're making a silly movie.
This is the point when you realize that. Or that maybe they realized it and you're like, well, thank God they finally realized that this is what this is. And and so then they go on the rampage against the piñata.
Rampage.
So to answer your question, at the end, you don't really know what happened. You know that they have kind of escaped from this scenario.
It wasn't in the budget.
Right. And I think that they were like, look, we've got like 3 minutes of film left. We gotta wrap this up.
Yeah, we're renting these cameras and they're due back at midnight.
Right. And so it was like, they rushed through. There were several
the
jokes
stores
in
on
this.
the phone. They just sent somebody over to come pick up their gear.
Right. And they're kind of like, stall that guy until we can finish the scene where they kill the piñata. And so...
Spoiler.
I'm trying to decide if anybody's actually going to watch this.
Nobody. It's okay.
Okay, so nobody's going to watch this. So if you are, by chance, skip the next 30 seconds.
Just hit the fast forward button and let's wrap this up.
There's a really weird scene where the piñata is pleasuring the main guy and then kills him that way.
Oh, now I'm really into this movie.
And then
hold on,
the
something
female
may have
lead
piqued my interest.
Kills the piñata and eats its heart, and you get the impression that the spirit of the piñata may have been transferred to her.
Ooh.
So that leads me to this.
She's full of candy.
So that's the end of the movie.
Pizza candy.
However, there is a website for this movie that does not reference the movie in any way, shape, or form and doesn't allow you to buy the movie, but it does sell t-shirts and posters.
Oh, well, that may be a fan page that was
No,
set
that
up.
is from them.
Really?
That is the people who produced
Also
it.
very interested in a t-shirt.
Oh, the t-shirts are awesome. I'm going to have to order one.
Yeah, no, I would get a t-shirt.
The Facebook page that they have, it's kind of like a fan group, but they have referenced the fact that they have a crowdsourcing thing going to raise money to make a sequel.
Okay, good.
Aww.
So they're headed in the right direction, but it's like 4 years old. So in the credits to this movie, they also list everybody who donated to the first movie, and it was probably done $1 at a time, because it is page after page after page after page of patrons who supported this movie.
Wow.
So it is no Velocipaster.
Yeah, that was good last week.
I would still recommend that you watch Velocipaster. I do not recommend you watch Killer Pinata.
Oh man.
But what about the Killer Sofa?
Oh, Killer
The Killer
Sofa. Yeah,
sounded good.
I put that ahead of this.
Yeah, you said Killer Sofa was better than Velocipaster.
Yeah, that's true. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, so I would put it as Killer Sofa, Velocipaster, and then Killer Pinata is probably going to be 14 or 15 by the time we get done with this. But I think the T-shirt is better than the movie. So I will probably go buy one of their T-shirts to help support.
You might get
this
credit
thing.
in the sequel.
So, so anyway, that's Killer Pinata. Thanks for subjecting me to that.
All right. Well, folks, if you're a subscriber, you're to the podcast, get out there and go vote on the poll this week, because there's always one. Every Tuesday when the new episode drops, there's a new poll of you getting to pick the movie we get to subject Walt to watch and bring back on the next episode.
Yeah, and this one was something else.
This was a killer.
Pinata.
All right. Well, let's go to our news segment, a segment we like to call
It's no bullshit.
Because we read it on the internet.
That is
And Walt,
that is correct.
you've got the first story.
All right, this is from metrouk.com. A British billionaire shot an employee dead in a drunken fight at a barbecue.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Okay.
A British billionaire has been charged with murder in Nambia after a member of his staff was reportedly shot dead following a drunken argument. And I will tell you, they buried the lead in this one, so stick with me.
Okay.
Harvey Bolter, 51, is said to have scuffled with the manager of his 66,000-acre farm during a barbecue on the evening of February 27th. Mr. Bolter has suggested that Mr. Van Wyck's daughter-in-law, Lonnie, owed him sex in return for a favor, sparking a fight with his son, Gerhard Jr. According to claims reported in the Times, Mr. Van Wyck, 54, is said to have stepped in after Mr. Bolter pulled out a gun and was trying to wrestle the firearm from him when it went off. A single shot reportedly passed through the billionaire's hand before penetrating the stomach of the victim, who died en route to the hospital.
Holy cow.
Lonnie and his wife Alta said that Mr. Bolter was arrested shortly after the incident at the remote property, according to the local media. In 2015, Mr. Bolter was also accused of embezzling £400 million entrusted to him by investors through a network of companies under the Porton Capital Group. The billionaire...
That's why he was in Namibia.
There you go. He was... Yeah, you're not going to get extradited from there. The billionaire was living in Dubai at the time, denying any wrongdoing from the legal claims against him, and they have not progressed through the courts. He moved to the U.S. the following year, but was said to have spent most of the last 2 years at Karis Farms in Nambia after divorcing the mother of his 3 children. He agreed to let the newlyweds, who also worked on the farm, build their home on the property, the Times reported. So there's a lot more to this, but just let it be known that he basically told that couple that she owed him sex, and then he ended up killing them.
It's no bullshit.
So he tells somebody with the last name of Van Wyck, come play in bed. Right?
Right.
He wanted to light his wick, play with his wick. Wait,
This is all drugs, right?
This is all drugs. Yeah, there's a lot of alcohol involved in this one.
Something's going on.
You cannot find me in Namibia. We have a shield. No, that's a different place. That is Wakanda. That is not Namibia. All right, well, I've got the next news story here, and this one, we love our Florida man, don't we?
Yes,
and
we do.
I'm going to make sure I put a picture of this out when this episode is available, because the mugshots are the best. Matthew Leatham was in fact picked up after his emergency calls and brought to jail. Now, he did call 911. By now, most people have heard the idea of the Florida man joke. Well, it seems like every headline featuring the words Florida man will be followed by an incredibly bizarre phrase. One Florida man, however, didn't let the joke diminish his pride in his state. Matthew Leatham, who has a very prominent tattoo, can you guess of what?
Rebel flag.
No.
Is it on his forehead?
It is on his forehead.
Does it say empty?
Swastika.
It does not say empty, but that's a good one. No, it is the actual state of Florida.
Oh,
Awesome.
He has
Pride.
the state of Florida directly between his eyes with the panhandle going over one eyebrow.
Also drugs.
Could very well be.
But
That's what
kind?
that's what his mugshot looks like. No, that's not what he's arrested for. Apparently, our friend Matthew was coming home late one night in Pasco County and decided to call for a cab. And he remembered the number to call is 911. So he called 911 and asked for a cab.
Great. Perfect.
The person on the other end said, "Would you like to get us a ride for you?" To which,
Can
and this
you
is
do
probably,
that? Can you call 911 and they'll be like, I got you.
well, I don't think you're supposed to. I'm not advocating that, okay? But the person, according to the news story, tried to be helpful, saying, look, this
Nice.
is not what you call. He started to yell and scream and cuss, repeatedly swearing to get your ass down here and pick my ass up.
Love that.
911 said,
always
sir, this
appreciates
is not
that.
that for that number. And so he hung up angrily and then called back.
Well, you're going to get a different operator, so that makes
Well,
sense.
yeah, he wanted to get somebody new.
Yeah.
The arresting officer finally showed up and realized that this man was not in the right state of mind. Found to be in possession of marijuana. The 22-year-old
What?
had to be taken to jail where he was booked and arrested and then afterwards made his $300 bond. Let this be a lesson. Do not call 911 and argue thinking you're calling for a cab.
It's no bullshit.
Dude, marijuana doesn't do that to you. He should
Yeah, that's-
just.
He was out of whatever drug made him
Well,
do that.
a
Yes.
man who tattoos the state of Florida between his eyes may not be the brightest bulb in that chandelier.
No, I'm thinking he's not. Genius. Yeah, that tattoo's kind of a warning.
Yeah, it says a lot.
Well, you definitely can identify him as a Florida man.
That does, yeah, as the Florida man. All right, well, the mailonline.com gives us this one, so follow me on this. Terry Boot fills the boots of Peter Foot at Shoe Zone after finance boss walks away from the job.
Inconceivable.
Now, see, I know when you said, you said The Guardian?
Mail Online.
Or Mail Online. That's the UK, so the boot is a
Daily
trunk.
Mail?
Yes, it's the Daily Mail. So
Yes,
so this is a store called Shoe Zone, and Shoe Zone has named a man named Terry Foot. I'm sorry. Damn it, this is going to be crazy. Shoe Zone has named Terry Boot
This is like a riddle.
to
Right.
fill the boots of his predecessor, Peter Foot, who walked away from the finance boss role at
What
Shoe Zone.
Shoe Zone riddle was given the boots when hired Mr. Foot?
It's like a fucked up Dr. Seuss here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this might explain it all. The footwear retailer said that Mr. Boot will step into the position with immediate effect.
Step.
He will take on the role after
Step
4 years.
in. Get it? Ugh.
I have a feeling the writer was enjoying his puns.
Yes, I think so. This is a very British article.
Well, you shouldn't be such a smart mouth, Mr. Know-it-all.
I think
He had
this
to
writer
step
had
it up
no
and kick it into
soul.
high gear. Oh, he had some soul.
He had no soul.
No soul. Having no
He really
soul.
needs to dip his toe into some better writing.
Realizing his tongue was hanging out, he had to lace things up and get
I
a better
bet he
hold.
felt like a real heel after writing this article.
All right, so the appointment comes after Mr. Foot unexpectedly walked away from the business last month after just 7 months in the role. Anthony Smith, chief executive of Shoe Zone, said, "We are delighted that Terry has agreed to join Shoe Zone and are confident that his considerable experience will strengthen the board. It came as the retailer said it is unlikely to pay a dividend out to shareholders until 2025, as it swung to a loss following the impact of store closures during the pandemic."
It's no bullshit.
Well, the punny part of that story was definitely all in the names.
Yes.
So, yeah, no, I think Autumn had a better version of the story, and I did my best to keep up, and that shows you why she's on a show every day and I'm not. So, there we go. All right. I've got the final story. I'm not going to read the headline just yet because I want to take you down a stroll down a beach in southern Thailand. It's important that this is where we'll find the town of Nakhon Si Thammarat, and the resident is 49-year-old Siriporn Niamarin. Now, Siri porn is sometimes what happens when I tell my phone to look things up and I get the wrong thing. But her name is actually Siriporn Niamarin. Now, on February 23rd, she was on a walk on the beach after a rainstorm and came across what looked to be a strange lump or a rock of some kind just sitting on the beach. She looked a little closer at it. It was about 1 foot wide and 2 feet long. It resembled kind of a rock, but with an off-white color and brown patches. Definitely wasn't a rock, though. So, the texture was too weird. It was a lumpy kind of look to it. It smelled faintly of fish. Now, most people would probably just have ignored the thing as some kind of garbage of the sea and carried on, but not our heroine. No, she thought that misshapen blob might somehow be worth something. So she picked it up, the 15-pound object, and carried it back to her house. And she would soon be very, very glad that she did. Because once she got home, she showed the blob to her neighbors, asking them, well, what do you think this might be? Well, based on its consistency, the location of discovery, and the fishy smell, they told her it could very well be whale vomit.
Oh, that's not right.
Yay! That's really expensive, right?
Yes! Check this out. Whale vomit is also known as ambergris.
Ambergris.
It's an incredibly precious commodity. It's widely used as an ingredient in the most expensive perfumes and can sell for a pretty penny. According to this, if it is truly ambergris, a 15-pound lump will fetch around $250,000.
It's amazing. It's astounding. But it's no bullshit.
That's so cool. Good for her.
Isn't that amazing? Think about that. Whale vomit.
I was so afraid that you were going to be describing like a torso or something.
Oh, yeah. Ooh.
You know?
Yeah, no, I wasn't. No, but the funny thing is the headline was actually what caught my eye. Woman finds $250,000 worth of whale puke on beach.
Yep.
When you go to buy something, tell your significant other, got you some whale vomit.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Nice.
It's Chanel number 2. Because a lot of people think that maybe they poop it out. They call it whale vomit, but they do say later in the article, which I trimmed up, that it does actually form in the intestinal tract, and they wonder.
It's not exactly like, it's not like puke. It's
Right.
some like residue left over from eating things or something.
It's all the stuff that it can't digest. It eventually compacts into blobs. And actually, there's a whole side article that says, and which I followed up on, someone found 4 or 5 boulder sizes that brought him $3.5 million.
Wow.
Yeah, there was so much. Yeah. Crazy.
Cool.
That's why it's called It's No Bullshit. It's true.
That is crazy.
All right, as we start to wind down, we've got one more segment to get to. It's a segment we like to call for entertainment purposes. What are you watching? What are you reading? What are you listening to? Walt, with your unstable connection and brain, we'll go to you first. What are you watching? We'll do watching first.
Well, I finally broke down and started watching WandaVision.
Oh, good.
So,
did you binge it all the way through?
No, I'm trying to watch like an episode a day, and I started yesterday. So I don't want to just burn through all of it at once. You actually made sense for once that it came out, broke it into segments, gives you a little time to think about that episode. So I'm watching one or, an episode here and there. Watched episode 1 a couple days ago, and it was excellent. So
you like the Dick Van Dyke kind of show?
Yes. Yep. So looking forward to getting through that, and everything I'm hearing is that it's solid all the way through, and probably actually gets better as you go. Is that right?
It's not just solid; it has been one of the greatest extensions of the Marvel Cinematic Universe because you get to see them get to act. They really get to act a whole lot, a whole spectrum, and the story is awesome. Have you seen it, Autumn?
No, I haven't.
You haven't watched WandaVision at all? Are you a fan of the MCU at all? The Marvel Cinematic Universe? Not so much?
No, not really. I really just like Batman, and even that is pretty limited to Michael Keaton.
Okay, well, you've got the right Batman, wrong
well,
universe.
and Joker stuff. Like, even the Joker, or maybe just Joker, whatever.
Joker was great. That movie,
but I mean the Batman one with Joker, and then the one with the Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
I know it's
those.
not supposed to be connected to it, but I don't care because it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So those would be standalone and then DC. But I for what it is. I had a buddy of mine. Give it another try, because I would say a buddy of mine used to mock us for years about, oh, you're watching Iron Man. What are you, like 12? And then after more and more people were getting into the whole movies, and like after 25 out, you think, well, maybe there's something to this. He asked for a list of, like, what order should I go watch these? He spent about a month binging them in order, and he is a huge Marvel Cinematic Universe fan now. He's like, I can't believe they all tied together. He's like, they tied all these movies together.
Yeah,
and that's what I think is amazing.
I liked Ant-Man.
Yeah, Ant-Man is great.
Because I like Paul Rudd, and I liked the Ryan Reynolds one.
Oh, that was that wasn't part of
Deadpool.
the MCU technically, but yeah, Deadpool is
But
great.
I like Ryan Reynolds so much.
I'm touching myself tonight.
Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool, without a doubt.
Just be my best friend, and then sometimes my sexy boyfriend.
Yes, I'll switch teams for that.
He's so cool. He seems so funny and cool, and also really hot.
Should we reach out to him? Maybe he'll be, feel pity to come on his podcast, and then he'll just take over anyway.
Seems like a good sport.
Yeah, we could do that. Offer him some gin.
Ooh, okay.
Have you not seen the videos between him and the guy that played Wolverine, Aussie actor?
Yeah, I love him.
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. Where they both, you have to go, if you haven't seen the videos with him
Who
doing his
doesn't love
gin.
Hugh Jackman? Everyone that interacts with him falls in love with him. He's supposed to be just like the nicest man.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we have a totally off the rails. I'm blaming
Sorry,
Autumn
this is
on
my
this
fault.
one.
No, you're fitting right in.
All right. So,
Okay.
all right. So Walt, we're back to you with the first thing you talked about, WandaVision.
Oh, yeah. And then this week, to get ready for Coming to America to drop, I watched Coming to America.
Oh, fun.
Which is such a great movie. And I probably haven't watched it in 3 or 4 years. And I just laughed through that whole movie. It is such... It's Eddie Murphy at his best, I think. I mean, he's a great stand-up. He has a lot of other... And of course, Beverly Hills Cop is top of the heap. But he is so good in this. And the scenes in the barbershop, I had to keep rewinding because they're so funny. And I was just laughing over all the other things the guy said. And, then he has that crazy preacher. And it's just such a great movie. I've started watching Coming to America. I got about 30 minutes in last night and had to quit. I hope it picks up and gets better.
Tim said that it was good.
Okay, good.
He said don't read anything about it. Like don't read the criticism of it and just watch it.
I haven't. I'm probably going to start it over tonight and rewatch it.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah, be in an awake and kind of focused state of mind, because it really is more about the nostalgia than it is about trying to be original.
Okay. Good. Well, I'll
because I'm gonna talk about that in my what I'm watching, because I did exactly what you just did.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like it's got potential and it's probably headed in a good direction. So those are the big ones I'm watching this week.
Okay. Well, let me dovetail right on that, because Coming to America, the sequel, was available. The wife and I were talking about watching it, and so I said, but you know what? It's been so many years since we've seen the first Coming to America. We actually watched Coming to America, followed by Coming to America. We watched them back to back. I thought it was fantastic. I had forgotten just how both funny, but yet modern fairy tale-ish the first one was.
Yeah.
And how good it was. I mean, there were certainly joking about things, and there was a lot of comedy and the makeup, and seeing Eddie Murphy playing multiple characters. And, I thought it was fantastic to go back and revisit the first one. And maybe that's why it set me in the right frame of mind. I thoroughly enjoyed the sequel. The weirdest part about it, watching them literally back to back, everyone suddenly was 30 years older. And it was weird.
Yeah.
Because they cast as many of the same people that were still alive in the movie. And it was weird because I just watched this guy who's like the doorman of the royal family, and all of a sudden he's got gray hair and he's kind of got a hobble, and I'm like, wow, he aged. But at least they had dressed it in a way that says this is 30 years later. And I thought that was fantastic. They acknowledged the fact that they are all 30 years older. It is a 30-year down the road story. It helps. They're not trying to pretend that they're back in the 80s. It's a contemporary setting. and yet they kept all the nostalgia moments for us. And so it was really good, and it hit all the nostalgia notes for me. If you were younger and you never saw the first one, you might not understand why this one was good, and maybe that's where the criticism is coming from. I thought it was fantastic.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I want to watch it. I definitely saw the first one many, 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 many times. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one, especially now that it's been given the green light by someone I trust with movies.
Yeah, and the fact that Arsenio Hall does the same two characters that he did the first time around, or three if you count his main character, and that, Eddie Murphy did all of his characters. The only thing they didn't do, unless I missed it, is they didn't bring Eric LaSalle back. I don't know if he just decided, well, I'm beyond that. I don't know if they tried to bring him back in some way. He was the only one that I'd noticed wasn't back that was, kind of a major character in the first story.
What about Samuel L. Jackson? Was he there?
Oh, you know what? He wasn't, although I had forgotten Samuel L. Jackson was in the first one. And when he goes to Rob, I'm like, that's Samuel L. Jackson.
I know.
That is so awesome. I'd forgotten that was his part.
Oh,
that
and
was great.
He has three names. He was in Show Me the Money.
James Earl
Jerry
Jones?
Maguire.
Oh,
No, Jerry Maguire. He was in Jerry Maguire. What's his name?
Oh, Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yes, Cuba Gooding
yeah.
Jr. Was he getting his hair cut again?
You know what? I had totally forgotten that was him in the barber chair.
I
As
love
a
that
kid.
scene because he's like the barber's cutting his hair, but he's just flipping the scissors above his head.
Like 6 inches over his head.
Yeah.
It's great. No, I didn't notice if he was in there. It's, you know what? It'll be worth rewatching again just for it. I did think
doubt it.
Wesley Snipes as a comedic Idi Amin was hysterical.
I didn't know Wesley Snipes was. Where did he go? He went to jail or something for tax evasion.
For like
and then
4 or
he's
5
all
years.
right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he's all right, but he's certainly
doing?
goofy in this movie.
All right, cool.
I liked it. I think they called the country that lives next door. They were like Nextdorbia. It's the name of the country. And
That's
he's like
awesome.
he's like the military dictator of Nextdorbia.
That's funny.
And there's a tie-in to the first movie with the first girl that Eddie Murphy's character was supposed to marry.
Uh-huh.
And
Oh,
you come
yeah.
to find out that she's his sister, and he's still pissed about the fact that for 30 years she's been hopping on one foot
And
That's
barking.
funny.
and barking.
Yeah.
Well, and I love the McDonald's
Big
shtick.
dog.
Woof.
Woof.
Well, I love the McDonald's shtick through the whole first movie, and I see that they're kind of picking up on it again in the
McDowell's.
second one.
McDowell's.
McDowell's, yep.
The golden arches. I have the golden arcs.
What's cool about it is it feels like as where John Amos's character was a little bit more of a money grubbing, just looking for the rich guy to hook up to his daughter. He actually became almost in the sequel more of a moral center, and it actually helped Akeem later in the movie.
Oh, good.
Which I think, again, I don't want to give anything away. You haven't seen the whole thing. I enjoyed it. I think
Good, okay.
I'd love to hear back from each of you after you watch it. So send me a message and let me know if I'm full of shit.
Okay.
Well,
Well, okay,
yes, no matter where we
Send
more
that
than
right now.
usual. The other thing I was watching, I finished The Next Generation. We talked about that all through season 3. I decided to go back since I had watched the documentary on the remastered Star Trek, the original series. So I'm going back, and I have to be honest with you, the early episodes are painful to get through Star Trek. I think, they haven't figured out their footing yet. I think that happens with, I guess, every series. But the filming, the style of putting Vaseline over the camera for fuzzy shots, and then you put like a key light right on Kirk's eyes and shadow all around, so the camera's like, look at, he's all
you're
intense.
talking about original.
The original,
series.
TOS, the original series. So I'm enjoying getting back acquainted to a show I watched on TV when I was like 6 and 7 years old in reruns. And obviously, I'm a big Star Trek fan anyway. But I think it took, I'm halfway through season 1, but the first 5 or 6, I was like, this has got to get better. I may just have to skip to season 2. But I couldn't, because Space Seed happens in season 1, which is when we re-meet Ricardo Montalban as Khan. So,
And City on the Edge of Forever is also in season 1, right?
oh yeah, that's supposed to be one of the, like, that was what up for not a Grammy, but an Emmy,
An Emmy,
I think,
yeah,
for the story.
That is probably my favorite episode with Spacey, just right behind it.
Yeah, Autumn, when you recognize when I said Ricardo Montalban as Khan, do you know the Star Trek II, the movie Wrath of Khan? Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, of course I've seen the movie.
Okay, so Do you know the story behind how that became the sequel?
No.
So apparently, the first movie, Star Trek the movie, spent so much money and it kind of didn't do as well in the theaters they were hoping. So they said, well, if we're going to do a sequel, we're going to cut it way back.
It was too much of an allegory for like vaginas or something. It was.
Really?
No?
Maybe I need to watch that
Star
again.
Trek
Maybe
1?
I should go through it again because I thought V'ger was okay. Never mind. Well, maybe it was going somewhere where no man has gone before.
Yeah.
But the sequel, they brought this guy in who had never seen a single Star Trek episode, but he was like typical Hollywood. We need you to help make this movie. He had no idea. Went through and watched all of the episodes, and there was this one episode where he said, I wonder what happened to this guy Kirk left on the planet. And that's how they got Ricardo Montalban back to play his character 30 years later, having been abandoned
Stuck
on this
that planet.
So it's going to be cool to go back and see the original
those
episode.
Little, like bugs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. These are pets, not entirely domesticated.
And then that leads us, of course, to Star Trek Into Darkness.
Which you were in.
Yes.
By the way, did you know he won a contest? He met J.J. Abrams and was on the set in San Francisco. We call him
Los Angeles.
Merce Man because he's holding a man purse.
Wow, that's cool. You're a celebrity.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
He's the most famous person here.
But I still wish they had not done Khan.
I didn't have as much of a problem. I had more of a problem that they were lying about it. Once they, I kind of knew that's where they were going. All right, so those are the three things I've been watching this past week. Sorry, we're taking longer than I thought all of a sudden. Hey, this is where it drags.
Yeah.
Autumn, we'll go to you. What are you watching right now? Or recommending?
Yeah, watching, I really just sort of watch the same things over and over because they give me some kind of weird comfort. But I am listening to a podcast called Where My Mom's At. It's with Christina Pajinski, who is married to Tom Segura. She's a comedian. Tom Segura is a comedian. He's on a podcast with Bert Kreischer I think it's called Two Bears, One Cave, which is also a really funny podcast. You should check out. But she has a couple of podcasts that I really like. Hers is Where's My Mom's At? And then she has one with Tom called Your Mom's House. They talk about they show a lot of videos. So it's a podcast that you can listen to and kind of get what's going on, but it's also a YouTube show. Mm-hmm. So you can look them up on YouTube and watch it.
Gotcha.
So I listened to that lately. And I also have been really into, this is maybe not the right audience for it, but Saving Sex and the City 3. This podcast was created in 2018 before, it was when they were starting to make a Sex and the City 3, and then it was stopped in the middle and they just stopped doing it. And then this funny woman who I like to listen to with her other podcast called Laura Marie Shanehalls. She started this podcast where she invites different people on and they create different scenarios for like what Sex and the City 3 would be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really fun. It's just one of those things where if you know Sex and the City as well as someone like I do, then you understand the choices that these people make in these funny scenarios for, like, you know, Miranda ends up in like a Russian prison and Samantha downloads her mind into the body of a sex robot, and then the sex robot murders her, and it's just like these crazy weird scenarios that I'm walking outside and I'm laughing out loud to myself. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's a really fun podcast to listen to. And then am I watching anything else? Oh, I always recommend Red Letter Media on YouTube.
Yeah.
Love them.
Okay,
I love everything that they put out.
That's something to watch. Red Letter Media.
Yes.
Okay.
They have these great sort of breakdowns of Star Wars 1, 2, and 3, and then all of the Star Wars after that, and then a lot of the Star Trek movies, and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and Baby's Day Out. I mean, they have everything, and they're really well done. They're very in depth. They come from a place of what feels like technical knowledge of movie making and script writing and composition. It's amazing. So Red Letter Media is one of my favorite YouTube channels to watch.
Excellent. Cool. All right. So see, Autumn doing I told her, I said, when I'm not going to interrupt, she can do whatever she wants. She completely overrode the format and did all of her categories at once, which is cool because I think she wants to go.
Oh, also my own podcast called One Topic. There's a lot of juice.
I was wondering if you were going to bring that up.
There's a lot of juicy juice going on right now. So.
Oh, wow.
There is.
All right. Well, since we're going to kind of catch back up with our end, Walt, I think you said last week you're going to be reading the same book for a while. Did you have anything new to add? If not, we'll just skip that.
Yeah, I actually do.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I'm going to put that on the shelf for a little while. I've been talking to a guy named Noel E. Monk and trying to convince him to come on the show. He was the manager for Van Halen as they were coming up. And he also worked with the Sex Pistols and a lot of other bands like that in that time period. And he has 2 books out, and I just ordered the first one, and it'll be here tomorrow. It's called Running with the Devil, and it is kind of the history of Van Halen from his perspective. So I was asking him some questions. He said, well, look, why don't you read my book first, and then come back, and let's talk about all this stuff. I'm hoping that he will come on the show. There's something he's holding out on.
Money.
But I'm looking forward to it. The reviews for it are fantastic. So it's called Running with the Devil by Noel E. Monk. I have a feeling it's going to be one of those I start reading and can't put down. So looking forward to that. And then he has another one on the Sex Pistols I can't remember the title of, but I'll buy that next.
Excellent. All right. I'm going to skip the reading on my end because I don't have anything that I'm in the middle of right now. And we'll go to what are you listening to? So Walt, and we'll circle back around to Autumn just in case she forgot something off her list, but I think that's what she kind of started with. So I've got a pretty big list there. What are you listening to, Walt? What do you got?
Well, a friend of mine last night told me about this podcast called Dark Arenas. And I was like, oh, great, another true crime podcast. And I started listening and I'm hooked. The first episode is an interview and a kind of case breakdown with the FBI agent in charge of the East Coast Task Force on Missing Children. So if a child goes missing, this team gets on a plane and goes. They're kind of like the Criminal Minds people.
Mm-hmm.
And so each episode gives you some other view into into certain cases or, whatever. But it's called Dark Arena. It's on Stitcher Premium right now. But it is really, really well done. And the interviews are great. The host is a little over dramatic at times, but it is a great podcast. I think 10 episodes are out now. So I'm going to be listening to that a lot this week, I think.
All right. Excellent. Autumn, I'll switch the things around a little bit since you kind of set things a little wonky anyway. Are you watching? You said the only thing you had watching was the Red Letter Media on YouTube. But is there anything else that you watch that you said I like to just kind of circle around to the comfort movies? That's fine if it's just something that it doesn't have to be new. It's just what you're watching. If anybody's listening, going, you know what, I never watched that movie, but suddenly I'm compelled to because the host or the guest brought it up.
Sure. I did watch this movie with Jean Desjardins, who is the guy from The Artist. Do you remember that black and white silent movie that was like in 2008? Was it 2008? Yeah, it was like 8 years ago. Anyway, he made these funny little movies that were kind of like Naked Gun, but they were French and they were sort of based on
that just
James
sounds like
Bond.
A joke itself. Like Naked Gun, but they were French.
Well, Naked Gun, but like James Bond. Like James Bond Naked Gun. Like funny James Bond.
Okay.
And it's called OSS 117. And they're really silly, funny little movies. But no, I mean, that's something new that I've watched. But otherwise, honestly, it's like I go back to the same stuff over and over. I'm watching like Game of Thrones.
There's nothing wrong with binging the first 6.5 seasons and then you realize I'm in for disappointment. It's almost like, my first marriage. I'm like, hey, started off okay. There was a moment there where I thought this was going to be great. And then
when Daenerys is there with her like Unsullied and her horde of whatever, and they're standing at King's Landing, I'm like, oh no. Here's
the funny part. So my second daughter down, out of college, got a job, her boyfriend, and they've been going out for a while. So now I'm starting to go, oh crap, I don't even have the college paid off. And now they're like got goo eyes for each other. She's introducing him to Game of Thrones. And it's so funny. She said, here's what I'm going to purposely do to you. We're going to binge the first 7 seasons, and then I'm going to wait for 2 years, and you're going to speculate on just how amazing the last season's going to be, and then I'm going to show it to you.
That's horrible. There needs to be like a machete order for Game of Thrones.
We should do a podcast sometime where we talk about what could have happened. Because here's what I explained to him.
Making the proper ending to Game of Thrones.
Well, and here's what I'm going to say to this. Because since you brought up Game of Thrones and something you've watched and you like to rewatch, my wife likes to go rewatch it. My daughter, like I said, is rewatching it now. I've seen it twice through. I think the very end in terms of story is exactly where I wanted it to end. How it got there was bullshit. Let's fast forward and just deliver it as fast as we can because we're sick of it.
Yeah.
That was my problem. It wasn't that
visually there were some amazing things that we got to see, but characters started making decisions that were against their character and didn't make sense for everything they had built for years.
Right. And the joke, like my daughter said, is we for 2 years speculated on where they're going to go now because we saw their arc. And for some of the characters to literally pretend that they never were on a journey and went right back to the beginning, I'm like, what the hell? What in the hell? Then you realize they were just tired. They were supposed to go write a Star Wars trilogy. That was before all the fanboys came out after Last Jedi and said, Star Wars sucks. We hate Star Wars. And then the 2 guys that were behind Game of Thrones are apparently not doing Star Wars anymore. So who knows what they're doing? Maybe they'll go screw up the Lord of the Rings.
Wishing they had ended Game of Thrones properly.
Wish they had said we could have done 2 seasons more. We could have had 8 and 9. You know.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right. See, this is what happens when a guest brings something up. That's why I can never keep these to 90 minutes, which is fine. All right. What else? What are your other go-tos? Like, do you have any typical movies you got are your go-to comfort movies? What's on the Autumn Fischer? It's a cold, dreary, rainy day. I'm going to sit in and watch TV or watch movies.
Yeah, for me, it's not always a movie. It's usually TV.
Okay, so you binge shows?
I binge like Vanderpump Rules. I might go through Real Housewives of New York, Real Housewives of New Jersey, stuff like that. But what's cool is I also listen to a podcast called Watch What Crappens, which is like a little joke about Watch What Happens on Bravo. And they recap the episodes. So sometimes I'll binge a couple of episodes and then go back to where they recapped them and like listen to them make fun of it. You know, so you get to re-enjoy the satire of it, I guess.
I get the feeling your entertainment choices are actually training for the next day on the air.
I mean, sometimes, not always. I mean, there are some things on Vanderpump Rules that you like some attitudes that you can definitely bring to an Alpharetta Annie or a millennial.
Any quote reality TV show, which we know is scripted anyway, but the fact that they're all so fake and phony, and then if you just go two steps higher, which is the characters you create, I mean, it's like, oh, you're just channeling a reality character. It's
I do
awesome.
want to say that on Vanderpump Rules, like, we're not talking about the Kardashians type of reality show. Like, we're not talking about E! Bravo has a different breed, a different, subspecies of reality show. They're not, I mean, they are producer driven, but they are by no means scripted. Especially, I know this, Vanderpump Rules. Vanderpump Rules is for real. They are for real having these ridiculous arguments. And I know that because they go on podcasts to talk about something else and they argue about what's going on.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I know, it's weird. Listen, it's my sport. It really is my professional sports is this kind of thing.
There are people who get into the wrestling world and all the subplots and soap opera elements there. I mean, hey, you know what? I don't make fun of what someone's entertainment is. I may question your choices, but that's not that. Whatever turns you on. Yeah. I get in arguments all the time with my wife. I still to this day can't understand why The Office is funny. She loves it. She thinks it's the funniest thing. It must
be so hard to be so wrong.
I say that to her all the time. I'm like, how are you? You are enjoying watching miserable people doing stupid things. I'm like, it's just not funny. Whereas Office Space is a really good movie.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
yeah, it is. It's awesome.
I just realized I have a more narrow, and I've said it. I have a narrower scope. There are certain things that I actually don't like at all when people are being uncomfortable humor. I'm not into where it's mocking and people saying things that you just go and you're cringing the whole time. Like, to me, if that's worse. Like, I'm feeling sick to my stomach watching Michael.
So can you watch something like I Love Lucy? I know that that's a crazy old reference, but I mean, that kind of show is all about cringing.
Well, maybe it's not as cringy as The Office because I think of it as just kind of goofy situation comedies. The best way I can explain it, the reason, and this is how my brain works. This is crazy. And Walt's like, I'm sick of hearing this explanation.
Every time we get into this, I have more questions trying to figure out how you don't like The Office.
So the way my brain works is I need to believe that the people I'm watching are capable of being real people. And when you take a normal or, a person who's kind of like I can identify with and put them in a silly or crazy situation, like a sitcom, I can buy into that. The moment it becomes a normal situation with really stupid people, it doesn't make any sense to me.
But you worked at IBM.
Right.
But early,
anybody like Michael,
Michael Scott era Office is very real. I feel like those people are pretty real.
And I look at him, I'm like, this guy would have been fired so long ago. This guy would have been.
Have you ever watched Peep Show on Hulu?
Mm-mm.
Peep Show is a British show. The premise of it is that you're never a third person in the room. You're always looking through one of the characters' eyes. It's really good. It's very, I mean, from my standard, maybe not, your standard, but I feel like they're very honest, real characters, and it's really, really good.
I like, and part of it is I know my brain. If I immediately cannot identify with how this could exist in the real world, and my wife's like, you like Lord of the Rings, you like Star Wars. I'm like, yeah, but that's the construct of that world.
Yeah.
If you put it in an office, then it needs to be the rules that I know in reality. If you're going to make a fantasy setting, then there's still some rules, but they're different.
But they're fantasy rules.
Right. Anyway, I get it. I have a broken brain.
Check out Peep Show. It's really good.
I do. And I do tend to gravitate more toward the British style of satire and humor than the American style. I think American style tends to be maybe more raw and not necessarily sophisticated.
I prefer British comedies and books. I read books rather than watch the telly.
Well, it's so much better the way I do the voices in my head.
Did you read the book? It was much better than the movie.
I am actually one of those assholes.
Oh, Killer Pinata, the novelization.
Oh, yes. If you thought the movie was bad, then you're missing out the novelization. Oh, it was a treat for the eyes.
Oh, what a journey, that poor Pinata.
Oh, to get into the inner workings, you just couldn't capture it on film.
No.
Well, it's like, no, you get me out of this show.
Catch it anywhere. Like, I'm trying to even think of the median that this works in. Like, it would be a shitty comic book.
Yeah, nothing works.
A terrible cartoon.
A flip book.
A flip book. If you bought it at Stuckey's or a truck stop,
yeah,
and it was a
Spencer's
flip
Gifts.
book, Spencer's Gifts, it would be perfect.
Okay, lots of blood, really funny, kind of interesting. Okay.
Yes.
All right. As I'll get to it as I try to put some kind of a bow on this. I've got a couple of things that I'm listening to. Actually, it's sort of a shameless plug, but my wife and I actually started a show together, and it's called the Marriage Fit Podcast. She's a personal trainer, so she wanted to do something about fitness. I've got a background in psychology. Of course, I'm on the radio, so I love talking, and I like talking about things that have to do with either current events or maybe, making people feel better or whatever. And so we're like, well, how about the marriage fit? We're going to try to figure out how we make our pieces fit together, whether it's with kids, whether it's with changing jobs, trying not to throw a fit, trying to stay fit, so that way we can go do things as we get older. And so we just started those just a couple of weeks ago, and so it's a very, very brand new show. Still kind of in the evolution, but it's one that I've been enjoying doing because it gives my wife and I a chance to actually sit down and talk purposely on purpose. We're having to talk, nice. And it's actually caused us to talk more off the podcast, which is great because you realize at the back end for us, like Autumn, I know you still got your kids are younger. Walt is almost where I am. My kids are all out. Mm-hmm. And it's weird when you all of a sudden don't have to take kids to soccer practice or take them to school or take them to their job or train them on how to drive. All of a sudden they're gone. You start looking at the person that you met literally 20 years ago and you go, are we still like, cool? Do we still, because we don't have anything to do anymore with the kids. Do you want to do something? And that's the whole point of this, is like how to make sure that you don't grow so far apart during that second phase of adulthood.
That's nice.
What are you doing in your third phase? And I don't know, it's fun. So we call it the Marriage Fit Podcast. And I will do a shout out for our friend that came on a couple weeks ago. The History of the Marine Corps is actually a really good podcast. I do enjoy history and told through the eyes of where the Marines were involved from everything starting at the Revolutionary War and moving forward. And each of those episodes is about an engagement where the Marines were called into action. And so I thought it was really cool to be told about that. And so I've enjoyed the first couple episodes of the Marine Corps, the history of the Marine Corps.
Yeah, it's a fantastic podcast.
All right, before we tell you about our show, I want to get back to Autumn. She's been given a lot of time to talk, which has really, really been nice for me, because now I get an entire year's worth of Autumn in the 2 hours that we have here on this episode. If someone wants to follow your podcast, One Topic, they want to hear you, they want to engage with you, they want to just reach out, tell us all the ways to find Autumn Fischer.
Yeah, you can find me everywhere online at Autopritz, AUTOPRITTS. I have a podcast called One Topic. You can find that on Podbean, on Spotify, on Apple, on whatever else people use that I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, I think we're on One Topic. You can search for us on Instagram, but we really don't post anything, so don't search for us. And but yeah, Autopritz is where you can find me everywhere.
Autopritz. And she is great to listen to on WSB. If you listen 9 to noon, weekdays, East Coast time, the Von Haessler Doctrine.
It's a podcast every day, so it's turned into, so you can search for the Von Haessler Doctrine.
Oh, good.
Haessler is Haessler, Haessler.
Yeah.
So search for that in your Apple whatever, and it'll come up, and we're a podcast every day.
It's so much fun to hear them talking about news and current events, and it's not just news events. It can be entertainment events. It's a great.
Sometimes we barely do any news.
Right. It's a great current topic show that hits a lot of different levers, and I really I love listening. And you have been great to share your time with us here today on the podcast.
Oh,
so
thank you for having me. It feels really special. So it's a pleasure.
Oh, yeah, sweet. Well, Walt, if somebody wants to learn a little bit more about our show, they tuned in because they love Autumn, and they go, what, did she lose a thing in court? Did she do penance? Why was she on this show?
Penance of some kind.
And this is the first time they're listening. Where can people learn a little bit more about our show?
Well, we are the Wilder Ride everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, everywhere you look, that's us. If you want to find our website, it's thewilderride.com. There is a ton of stuff there on us, our bios, our guest list, links to episodes, interviews that we've done, link to our Patreon page if you want to help us out there. That is going to kind of go back to our regular format.
Yeah,
at some
it's
point.
going to have to.
Yeah.
We need to pay some bills.
Yeah, we've got to pay some bills. So if you want to help us out there, that'd be great. There's some content behind the wall that you can listen to in exchange for lucre. So we've got some lights to keep on, so that would be great. And also on our Facebook page, it's facebook.com/thewilderride. You want to follow us there, and then a button's going to pop up, and you hit that button, and it's going to give you 3 questions to join our listeners group. We just want to make sure you're an actual human being. And that is kind of politics free. All that nonsense is left at the door. And it's just kind of entertainment, what's going on in the podcast. Of course, our weekly poll on what movie you're going to subject me to this week. I don't know that we'll top Killer Piñata, but
we're going to give it a try.
Yeah, maybe we won't do worse than Killer Piñata, but we will try. So yeah, check that out. I think this week it's all mutated monsters, like 6-headed shark something or other. So anyway, check that out. Again,
just remember, this was your idea.
This was my idea. I am regretting it. But no, I like bad movies, so it's giving me an opportunity to really see some bad ones.
And folks, just like with Autumn's podcast and all the podcasts you listen to, including this one, take a second to rate, review, and more importantly, share. It's so easy. Even if you don't want to take time to rate and review, just hit your share button and put it out on social media. Help us spread the word. The podcast groups out, and at least the podcasters I've worked with, they want to see everybody succeed. It's not like radio ratings or TV ratings where it's all about me, 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 me. It's about, hey, what can we all do? And that's the thing I think we all enjoy about doing our shows like this. So do that for us. And then come on back next week. We've got another exciting show. Every week, we bring you a new show to listen to on the Wilder Ride Listeners Lounge. We'll be working on a Gene Wilder movie. Don't worry, we haven't forgotten. That's going to be coming up here later this year. But we have Mike White joining us next week, a Navy SEAL and a former football player at the University of Alabama. So it's going to be a lot of fun having a former Navy SEAL join us, take us in a completely different direction, show us exactly what it is to be manly men, because there's no way I could have ever passed SEAL training, and I actually was in the Navy. So without further ado, Autumn, thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
Of course. I loved it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been great to get to know you.
And everybody else, come on back for next week's adventure on this, the Wilder Ride Listeners Lounge. Man, I'm so glad you were able to do some of your voices and stuff, but you didn't even feel like you had to, which is great, because it was about you. It was like we learned about you.
All I do on the Doctor and his voices, so, I like to just talk.
I know, because we're not sharing the video. All I kept wanting to ask is, are you like that person that keeps the exact same shirt, like 7 of them in the closet?
I know, it looks like the exact thing. It's not the same.
It looks like it. I'm like, oh my God.
I know,
so
look,
she's that
this
person?
has like little drinks on it.
Uh-huh, little spots.
Yep, and this has...
Oh, is that what?
And
Okay.
it's a whole different, look, it's like a tie.
From this view, I
See,
was
this is like a button-up shirt, and this is like a...
Oh, okay. Well, from just sitting down, the whole time.
I know.
She's like that person who's like, I don't want to waste my time on what I have to wear in the morning. I just buy 6 of the exact same.
Yeah, I'm...
Oh, there you go.
So I'm